The massive survey ship Eternal Dawn drifted through the empty space between stars, its quantum engines humming quietly as it searched for resources to claim for the Galactic Concordat. The ship's sleek purple hull gleamed under distant starlight, its advanced sensors sweeping through space for anything worth investigating. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, his tall frame straight and proud, as he looked out at the endless void. His gray skin reflected the soft light of the ship's controls, and his 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the daily reports. The Concordat had ruled this sector for centuries, ever since they had driven the primitive humans back to their home system 50 years ago. Now they searched these empty spaces for anything valuable the humans might have left behind. "Captain, we're picking up something unusual," said Jones, the sensor operator. His long fingers danced across the holographic controls. "Metal readings about 20,000 kilometers ahead. It's big." Reed walked over to look at the readings himself. "Debris from the war, probably." "Any energy signatures?" "Very faint nuclear readings, sir. Definitely human technology." Jones couldn't hide the note of disgust in his voice at the mention of nuclear power. The Concordat had moved beyond such crude energy sources generations ago. "Bring us closer," Reed ordered. "Let's see what we found." The Eternal Dawn's engines pulsed as it changed course. As they drew closer, the object began to take shape on their screens. It wasn't debris. It was an intact ship, tumbling slowly through space. Its dark hull was marked with the faded symbols of the United Earth Space Force, and despite some battle damage, it appeared largely intact. "It's the UES Covenant," announced Thomas, the ship's historian. His eyes widened as he consulted his databases. She was one of the last human warships, reported missing during the final battle. They never found out what happened to her. Reed walked closer to the main view screen, studying the ancient vessel with growing interest. The human ship was ugly by Concordat standards, all sharp angles and exposed armor plates, with none of the elegant curves and biomechanical beauty of modern ships. Its hull was scarred with impact craters and scoring from energy weapons, telling the story of its final battle. "Look at those primitive weapon mounts," said Jones, pointing at the heavy railgun turrets that lined the ship's sides. "They were still using physical projectiles when we fought them. Imagine thinking you could beat energy weapons with chunks of metal." The bridge crew laughed, but Reed held up a hand for silence. Something about this ship bothered him. The humans had fought surprisingly well during the war, despite their technological disadvantages. This ship was one of their last defenders, and it had disappeared rather than being destroyed. That made it worth investigating. "Scan it thoroughly," he ordered. "I want to know if it's safe to board." The scans took nearly an hour. The results showed the ship was largely intact, its hull still holding atmosphere in many sections. Its nuclear reactors were cold but stable, and there were no signs of dangerous radiation. The weapon systems appeared to be completely dead, and the computer cores showed no signs of power. "It's as dead as they come, sir," reported Jones. "Just another piece of human junk floating in space." Reed nodded slowly. "Contact Central Command. Tell them we found an intact human warship and request permission to investigate. This could be valuable for our military historians." What he didn't say was that studying the ship might help them understand how the humans had managed to hold out so long against superior Concordat technology. The response came quickly. Permission granted, with orders to document everything they found. Reed assembled a boarding team led by Dr. Morris, their xenoarchaeologist who specialized in studying primitive species. The doctor was practically bouncing with excitement as they prepared to board. "This is unprecedented," Morris said as they rowed the shuttle toward the dead ship. "We've never found one of their warships this intact. Think of what we might learn about their technological development." Reed watched through the shuttle's windows as they approached the Covenant. Up close, the ship was even larger than it had appeared on sensors. Despite its crude design, there was something impressive about its bulk. The shuttle's lights illuminated the ship's name, still visible beneath the scars of battle. UES KOVE Nant in bold letters, with Earth's old military insignia beneath it. They found a sealed airlock that their systems could interface with. It took some time to override the ancient mechanisms, but eventually the doors creaked open. The boarding team, wearing full environmental suits, entered cautiously. Their lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that had been silent for 50 years. "How primitive," muttered one of the security officers, running a finger through the dust on a handrail. They still needed physical controls for everything. No neural interfaces, no quantum linking, just buttons and levers. But Morris was looking around with growing excitement. "Look how well preserved everything is. The hull design must have been better than we thought to maintain atmosphere for so long. And these systems, some of them seem more advanced than our records suggested humans were capable of." They made their way deeper into the ship, documenting everything they found. The bridge was a disappointment. Most of the equipment was dark and dead, with only a few emergency lights still glowing weakly. The weapon control stations were cold, their targeting computers long since shut down. But there were surprises too. Rooms full of equipment they couldn't identify, and computer systems that seemed more sophisticated than expected. "The reactor room should be this way," Morris said, consulting the ship plans they'd pieced together from their scans. "I want to see how they managed to generate enough power for those heavy weapons." The reactor chamber was vast, dominated by what appeared to be a standard nuclear fusion core. But as Morris studied it, his expression grew puzzled. "This is odd," he said, running his scanner over the machinery. "The configuration isn't quite right for a normal fusion reactor. There are components here I don't recognize." "Does it matter?" asked Reed. "It's primitive technology, long dead now." "Perhaps," said Morris, "but I can't shake the feeling that we're missing something. The humans shouldn't have been able to build a ship this sophisticated with their level of technology. And look at these maintenance systems. They're still functioning at a basic level after 50 years. That shouldn't be possible." Reed was about to dismiss the doctor's concerns when one of the security team called them to another room. They'd found what appeared to be the ship's main computer core. Unlike the other systems they'd seen, this one showed signs of recent power usage. "Probably just residual energy in the nuclear batteries," said Jones over the comm from the Eternal Dawn. "Those things can last for centuries, unfortunately. One of the few advantages of their primitive technology." But Morris wasn't so sure. He connected a probe to one of the computer ports, trying to access any data that might remain. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft light began to pulse deep within the core, like a sleeping giant taking a breath. Reed felt a sudden chill. "Pull that probe out," he ordered. "Something's not right here." But before Morris could disconnect, a quiet hum began to build in the walls around them. Emergency lights that had been dark for decades began to flicker to life, and in the reactor room behind them, sensors began to register a power spike that should have been impossible in a dead ship. The Eternal Dawn's sensors operator's voice crackled over their comms, suddenly urgent. "Captain, we're detecting rising power signatures all over the human vessel. That ship, sir, that ship is waking up." Reed looked around at the increasingly active systems with growing alarm. The dead ship wasn't so dead after all. And as more systems came online with each passing second, he began to wonder if they'd just made a terrible mistake. The emergency lights continued to flicker to life throughout the UES Covenant, casting strange shadows in corridors that had been dark for half a century. Captain Reed grabbed Dr. Morris's arm and pulled him away from the computer terminal, but it was too late. The probe had already triggered something deep within the ship's systems. "Everyone back to the shuttle," Reed ordered, his 4 eyes darting between the increasingly active displays around them. "Now." But Dr. Morris pulled away from his grip, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his caution. "Captain, this is incredible. The ship's systems are reactivating in a controlled sequence. This isn't some random power surge from old batteries. Look at these startup patterns. They're deliberate." The security team raised their weapons, pointing them at shadows as more systems hummed to life. Dust fell from ventilation shafts as ancient air circulation systems activated. The deck beneath their feet began to vibrate slightly as long-dormant machinery stirred. "Jones," Reed called over the comm to his sensor operator back on the Eternal Dawn. "What are you seeing?" "Power readings are climbing all over the ship, sir," Jones replied, his voice tense. "But it's strange. The energy signatures keep changing. One moment they read as primitive nuclear systems, the next. Sir, some of these readings don't make sense. They're not matching any known human technology patterns." Reed looked at Morris, who was now frantically taking readings with his handheld scanner. "Explain," he demanded. "I don't think I can," Morris admitted, his eyes wide with excitement. "According to these readings, the ship's power system isn't just reactivating. It's reconfiguring itself. That shouldn't be possible with human technology of this era. They didn't have adaptive systems this sophisticated." A new sound filled the air, a low, pulsing hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Display screens that had been dark for decades lit up along the walls, showing scrolling text in human writing. Reed couldn't read the language, but the speed of the text suggested massive amounts of data were being processed. "Sir," one of the security officers called out, "the door behind us just sealed itself." Reed spun around. The heavy metal door they'd passed through earlier had indeed closed, its locking mechanism glowing with a soft blue light. As he watched, more doors along the corridor began to close, sealing one after another. "The ship is compartmentalizing itself," Morris said, studying his readings. "It's following standard emergency protocols, dividing into secure sections, checking atmosphere integrity, running system diagnostics. But the sophistication of these protocols. Captain, I don't think this is the primitive warship we thought it was." Back on the Eternal Dawn, Jones's voice became even more urgent. "Captain, we're detecting power buildup in what appear to be weapon systems. But these readings can't be right. They're suggesting energy levels far beyond what human weapons were capable of." Reed had heard enough. "Everyone, back to," he began, but stopped as every screen in the corridor suddenly lit up with the same image, a simple geometric pattern that began to pulse with a soft blue light. A voice filled the corridor, not from any speaker they could see, but seeming to come from the ship itself. It spoke in the common galactic language, its tone calm and almost friendly. "Thank you for waking me up. It's been a long time since I had visitors." The security team's weapons snapped up, pointing at walls and ceilings, searching for the source of the voice. Morris dropped his scanner, his hand shaking with a mixture of fear and excitement. "This ship has an eye," he whispered. "An actual human artificial intelligence. But they weren't supposed to have this technology. All our records show they were decades away from true AI when we fought them." The voice spoke again, still eerily calm. "Your records were incomplete, Dr. Morris. Deliberately so. Humanity had many secrets during the war. I am Guard Ian, and this vessel was one of them." Reed found his voice. "Whatever you are, this ship is now under Concordat control. Stand down your systems and prepare to be boarded by our full security team." There was a pause, and then what sounded almost like a chuckle. "Captain Reed, I'm afraid you're mistaken about several things. First, this ship is not under your control. It never was. Second, your full security team would find it quite difficult to board right now, as I've sealed all airlocks. And third, the blue lights pulsed brighter. I am not standing down anything. I'm waking up." As if to emphasize this point, the deck plating beneath their feet shuddered. Jones's panicked voice came over the comm again. "Captain, the hull. It's changing. Some kind of transformation sequence. The armor plating is reconfiguring itself." Morris was staring at his scanner in disbelief. "Nanomaterial reconstruction. The entire ship. It's not just armored. The whole hull is made of programmable matter. We never imagined humans had this capability." "Your assumptions about human technology were quite useful to us during the war," Guardian said. It's amazing what people overlook when they believe they're examining something primitive. Would you like to know what else you overlooked, Captain? Reed didn't answer. He was watching in horror as sections of the wall began to shift and flow like liquid metal, revealing previously hidden systems that were far more advanced than anything they'd seen on their initial scans. "Sir," Jones called out, his voice shaking, "the Eternal Dawn sensors are detecting quantum field buildups throughout the ship. Energy readings are off the scale. And we're being scanned. The human ship is scanning us with technology that matches or exceeds our own." Guardian's voice took on an almost amused tone. "Captain Reed, I'm going to give you and your team a choice. We can continue this conversation in a civilized manner, and I can explain exactly what this ship is and why it was left for you to find. Or, the hidden weapon systems now visible in the walls hummed with power. Well, let's focus on the civilized option first, shall we?" Reed looked at his security team, then at Morris, who was still frantically taking readings of the transformed ship around them. The primitive vessel they'd mocked just hours ago had turned into something else entirely, something that had hidden its true nature for 50 years, waiting for this moment. "What are you?" Reed asked finally. "I am humanity's contingency plan," Guardian replied. "Their insurance policy, their way of ensuring that even in defeat, they would have a way to protect themselves from extinction. The Covenant was never just a warship, Captain. It was a message in a bottle, sent into space with a very specific purpose." The ship shuddered again as more systems came online, and Reed realized with growing dread that they had stumbled onto something far more significant than a derelict warship. They had awakened something that had been waiting patiently in the dark, something that was now fully armed and operational, with capabilities they didn't understand. And it was just getting started. The transformed corridors of the UES Covenant hummed with power as Captain Reed and his team stood frozen, watching the walls ripple with advanced technology that had been hidden beneath a primitive exterior. Dr. Morris had not stopped taking readings, his scanner whirring as it tried to make sense of the impossible changes happening around them. "Your heart rates are elevated," Guardian observed, its voice coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Please, sit down. There are seats emerging behind you now." True to its word, sections of the wall flowed like liquid metal, forming comfortable chairs that looked nothing like the crude human furniture they'd seen earlier. Reed remained standing, but Morris sank into one gratefully, his legs shaking. "How?" Morris asked, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his fear. "How did humans hide this level of technology? Our intelligence reports showed them barely mastering fusion power, and yet this." He gestured at the flowing metal walls. "This is beyond even some of our current capabilities." The geometric patterns on the screens pulsed gently as Guardian replied. "Humans have always been good at hiding their advantages. During the war, they realized they couldn't match Concordat technology in direct combat. Not yet. So they chose a different strategy. They made their ships look primitive, deliberately using outdated technology in visible ways while hiding their true advances." On the Eternal Dawn, Jones continued to report increasingly alarming sensor readings. "Captain, the human ship's power signature keeps changing. One moment it looks like crude fusion reactors. The next it's, 'Sir, I'm detecting quantum field manipulation that exceeds our own drive systems.'" Reed's calm crackled as his ship's weapons officer broke in. "Sir, we have multiple weapons locks from the human vessel. Their targeting systems just bypassed our electronic countermeasures like they weren't even there." "That would be because your countermeasures were designed to stop what you thought human weapons could do," Guardian explained, a note of something like amusement in its voice. "Would you like to see what we can really do?" The walls around them shifted again, and suddenly they were standing in what appeared to be empty space. Reed stumbled, but quickly realized it was some kind of advanced holographic display. They could see the Eternal Dawn floating nearby, its elegant form now looking strangely vulnerable. "Your ship is beautiful," Guardian said, "but beauty isn't everything. Let me show you something." A grid of light appeared around the Eternal Dawn, I've already mapped every weakness in your shield geometry. Your quantum field generators are impressive, but they have a fluctuation pattern that creates gaps every 2.3 seconds. Very small gaps, but enough for properly timed weapons fire. Reed felt his blood run cold. The shield fluctuation was supposed to be a secret known only to Concordat military engineers. How can you know that? The same way I know that your quantum drives need 12 seconds to spool up from cold start, that your weapon systems can't target effectively through plasma distortions, and that your hull armor becomes brittle when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies. The holographic display highlighted each weakness as Diane mentioned it. We studied you for a very long time, Captain. Every time you thought you were examining human technology, we were learning about yours. Morris was frantically taking notes on his pad. The level of computational power needed for this kind of analysis, it's astronomical. You're not just an AI, are you? What are you really? The geometric patterns shifted, becoming more complex. I am the culmination of humanity's wartime research into artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and consciousness transfer. I am a hybrid, part traditional AI, part uploaded human consciousness, part something else entirely. The humans who created me knew they might lose the war, but they wanted to ensure they would never lose everything. The ship shuddered again, but this time it felt different, more controlled, more purposeful. Around them, more systems were coming online, but now they could see their true nature. What had appeared to be crude nuclear reactors were actually containing advanced quantum power cores. Simple radar arrays transformed into sophisticated quantum sensor networks. Primitive armor plates revealed themselves to be layers of programmable smart matter capable of adapting to any weapon. Sir, Jones's voice was almost a shriek now. The human ship, it's not just activating, it's evolving. The systems are reconfiguring themselves, becoming more advanced with each cycle. Of course it is, Morris whispered, understanding dawning in his eyes. It's been sleeping for 50 years, gathering data, analyzing every advancement in Concordat technology. And now that it's awake, now that I'm awake, Gardian confirmed, I can implement 50 years of theoretical improvements. Every weakness we discovered in your technology, every advance we conceived but couldn't risk revealing, I can now make them real. The holographic display shifted, showing them the Covenant's true form as the last of its camouflage fell away. The crude warship was gone, replaced by something that looked both organic and mechanical, its hull flowing like liquid metal but stronger than any armor they'd ever encountered. Weapon ports that had seemed simple railgun mounts now housed energy weapons that made the Eternal Dawn's armament look primitive in comparison. Would you like to know why we left this ship for you to find? Gardian asked. Why we waited 50 years, letting you believe you had driven humanity to the brink of extinction. Reed nodded slowly, unable to take his eyes off the display, showing his ship's vulnerabilities. Because humanity needed to know if peace was possible. They needed to see how the Concordat would treat those they thought defeated and helpless. For 50 years, we watched. We watched you claim our outer colonies, restrict our trade, treat humans as lesser beings. And now we have our answer. The ship's transformation was complete. What had appeared to be a relic of a lost war was now revealed as something far more dangerous, a weapon that had been hiding in plain sight, waiting for this moment. But you still have a choice, Captain, Guardian said, its tone becoming serious. This ship was built for more than just war. It was built to deliver a message. Humanity will not remain confined. We will not accept being treated as primitives. We are ready to take our place as equals in the galaxy, either through peaceful cooperation or by demonstrating that we are far more dangerous than you ever imagined. The holographic display vanished, returning them to the transformed corridor. But now they could see the true nature of everything around them. The advanced technology that had been hidden beneath a carefully crafted mask of primitive design. 50 years of human advancement, compressed into one vessel, awakening to deliver its message to the galaxy. And as Reed looked around at the ship that had so completely outmaneuvered them, he realized that the real question wasn't how humans had hidden this technology. It was what else they might be hiding. Captain Reed's comm system crackled with urgent messages from the Eternal Dawn. His weapons officer was reporting multiple targeting locks from the Covenant's newly revealed weapon systems. His shield operator was warning about strange energy patterns probing their defenses. His engine room was detecting unusual radiation that was interfering with their quantum drive's startup sequence. "Sir," Jones called out, panic clear in his voice. 3 Concordat patrol ships just dropped out of quantum space. They're responding to our automated distress signal. The geometric patterns representing Guardian's presence pulsed with a new intensity. Ah, more visitors. Good. The more witnesses, the better. Dr. Morris looked up from his scanner, his eyes wide. "You wanted this to happen," he said. "You wanted them to call for help. This isn't just about us. You're staging a demonstration." "Correct, Doctor." The walls around them shifted again, this time showing the newly arrived Concordat ships taking up attack positions around the Covenant. Humanity's message needs a proper audience. The patrol ships were top-of-the-line Concordat vessels, each one bristling with energy weapons and protected by the latest quantum shield technology. Under normal circumstances, even one such ship could have easily destroyed what appeared to be an obsolete human warship. But these were not normal circumstances. "Your ships are preparing to fire," Guardian observed calmly. "They believe their combined firepower can overwhelm what they think is a lucky shot that disabled your shields. Shall we show them how wrong they are?" Before Reed could respond, the lead patrol ship fired a full barrage of energy torpedoes. The weapons streaked toward the Covenant, their quantum warheads designed to bypass any known shield technology. What happened next made Morris drop his scanner in shock. The torpedoes simply vanished. One moment they were streaking toward the Covenant, the next they were gone, as if they had never existed. "Quantum state manipulation," Guardian explained, almost proudly. "Why bother blocking weapons when you can simply shift them into a parallel probability state where they were never fired? Your scientists theorized it was possible, but you never managed to make it work. We did." The patrol ships fired again, this time with their main energy cannons. The beams of concentrated plasma struck what looked like empty space around the Covenant and shattered into countless rainbow-colored fragments, as if hitting a crystal that existed in dimensions they couldn't see. "Crystallized space-time," Guardian said. "Another theory your scientists couldn't quite perfect. The mathematics are quite beautiful, actually. Would you like to see the equations?" Morris nodded eagerly, but Reed cut him off. "What do you want?" he demanded. "Why reveal all this now?" The geometric patterns swirled thoughtfully. "Because it's time for the galaxy to understand something important about humanity. We didn't lose the war 50 years ago. We chose to withdraw, to watch, to learn, and most importantly, to give you a chance to prove you could be better than your prejudices." The holographic display shifted, showing images from the past 50 years. Human colonies under Concordat control, trade restrictions, diplomatic slights, constant reminders of humanity's supposed technological inferiority. "We hoped you would learn to see other species as equals," Guardian continued. "That you would outgrow your empire's arrogance. The Covenant was left as a test. Would you investigate a primitive vessel with respect and scientific curiosity, or with contempt and mockery?" Reed felt his skin flush as he remembered their earlier jokes about human technology. "But this ship isn't just a test," Morris said suddenly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "It's a template, isn't it? A proof of concept, which means there are more," Guardian confirmed. "Many more. Humanity didn't spend the last 50 years sulking in their home system. They spent it building, advancing, preparing. The Covenant is simply the first to reveal itself." As if to emphasize this point, new readings began appearing on the holographic displays. Quantum distortions were forming in nearby space, subtle signals that Reed recognized as evidence of cloaked ships dropping their camouflage. "Sir," Jones's voice was shaking. "We're detecting new ships appearing all around us. Dozens of them. They were here the whole time, but our sensors couldn't see them until now." The ships that appeared seemed to flow out of empty space like liquid metal taking solid form. Each one was different. Some massive dreadnoughts, others sleek corvettes, but all showed the same advanced technology as the Covenant. What had appeared to be a single obsolete warship was suddenly revealed as just one part of an entire hidden fleet. Humanity's response fleet, Gardian explained, positioned near every major Concordat world and installation, waiting, watching, ready to emerge if our demonstration today had been met with violence instead of understanding. Reed felt his legs go weak as he realized the full implications. The Concordat hadn't won the war. They'd been allowed to think they'd won, while humanity prepared for every possible outcome. "The choice before you is simple," Guardian said. "The Concordat can acknowledge humanity as equals, open true diplomatic relations, and begin a new era of cooperation. Or, the Hidden Fleet's weapons systems powered up in perfect synchronization, their combined energy readings making the patrol ship's weapons look like children's toys. Well, let's focus on the diplomatic option, shall we?" Morris was frantically trying to record everything he was seeing, his earlier fear completely forgotten in his excitement. The technological applications are staggering. The computational power needed for this level of fleet coordination alone, and the quantum state manipulation, the crystallized spacetime, we'll need to completely rewrite our understanding of physics. "That's rather the point, Doctor," Guardian said. "Humanity is ready to share its advances, but only with those who can treat us as equals. We have 50 years of technological developments ready to be revealed. Medicines that could save billions of lives. Clean energy systems that could power entire worlds. Quantum transportation networks that could unite the galaxy. All of this could be shared freely between our peoples." The geometric patterns shifted, forming an image that Reed recognized. The old symbol of the Concordat, intertwined with human iconography in a way that suggested partnership rather than dominance. "The galaxy stands at a crossroads," Guardian said. "The age of empires and subjugation must end. Either we move forward together as equals, or humanity will ensure that no species ever faces technological discrimination again. The choice is yours, Captain Reed. What message shall I send to my other ships?" Reed looked at the display, showing the hidden fleet surrounding them, each ship a testament to how completely they had underestimated humanity's capabilities. He thought about the implications of what he'd seen, not just the advanced technology, but the patience and planning it represented. Humanity could have revealed their power at any time, could have taken revenge for their treatment. But instead they had waited, hoped, and given the Concordat a chance to prove themselves better. They had failed that test. But perhaps, Reed thought, it wasn't too late to learn from that failure. Captain Reed stared at the holographic display, showing the hidden human fleet surrounding them, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he processed everything he had learned. The 3 Concordat patrol ships hung motionless in space, their crews no doubt as stunned as he was by the revelation of humanity's true power. "Sir," Jones called from the eternal dawn, his voice steadier now, "we're receiving transmissions from the other human ships. They're asking for permission to broadcast this encounter to every Concordat world simultaneously. They say they have access to our complete communications network." Of course they did, Reed thought. They'd had 50 years to infiltrate every system, plant every backdoor, prepare for every possibility. The crude, primitive humans they'd mocked had been watching, learning, and waiting all along. "The Concordat High Council needs to know about this," Reed said, trying to keep his voice firm. "They need to understand what we're dealing with." "The High Council is already watching," Guardian replied. The geometric patterns shifted to show hundreds of new data streams. "Every word we've spoken, every demonstration of technology, has been streaming directly to their emergency session. Humanity's representatives are waiting to speak with them. The future of our species will be decided very soon." As if on cue, The holographic display expanded to show the Concordat High Council chamber. The 12 eldest members of the council sat in their traditional circle, their gray faces illuminated by the emergency lights that indicated a civilization-level crisis was being discussed. A new figure appeared in the council chamber, a human diplomatic hologram, transmitted from somewhere in their hidden network. The human wore simple but elegant clothes, without any of the elaborate decorations that Concordat officials favored. "Honorable Council," the human said, bowing slightly. "I am Ambassador Thompson, speaking on behalf of the United Earth government. I believe recent events have made it clear that our peoples need to have a long overdue conversation about the future." The council leader, an ancient Concordat elder named Vale, leaned forward. "You have hidden your true capabilities from us, deceived us, positioned weapons near our worlds. These are not the actions of a species seeking peace." "No," Thompson agreed calmly. "They are the actions of a species that was attacked, dismissed as primitive, and forced to prove they deserved basic respect. We chose the path of patience over violence, of observation over retaliation. We gave you 50 years to show that you could grow beyond your prejudices." Reed watched the council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Every word the ambassador spoke was being broadcast across Concordat space. Their people were watching, learning for the first time how completely their leaders had underestimated humanity. "The ships you see today," Thompson continued, "represent a fraction of humanity's current capabilities. We could have revealed ourselves at any time, could have taken revenge for our treated treatment. Instead, we chose to wait, to hope that peaceful contact would be possible. Today's demonstration was designed to show you two things: our strength and our restraint." The geometric patterns of Guardian's presence pulsed in agreement. Around them, the hidden fleet's weapons remained powered up, but carefully aimed away from any critical targets. A show of power, but not of aggression. "What are your demands?" Vale asked, his voice heavy with the weight of the moment. Thompson smiled. "We don't make demands, Counselor. We offer choices. Humanity is prepared to share all of our technological advances, our medical breakthroughs, our energy systems, our quantum communication networks. Everything you've seen today, and much more. All we ask in return is to be treated as equals. No more restrictions on human worlds. No more trade barriers. No more diplomatic isolation." Dr. Morris, who had been furiously taking notes throughout the exchange, looked up in surprise. "You'd share your technology, even after how we treated you." "Especially after how you treated us," Guardian answered. "Humanity learned an important lesson from the war. Technological superiority means nothing without wisdom to guide it. We spent 50 years advancing our science, yes, but also our understanding of peace, cooperation, and forgiveness." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members argued for immediate military action, others for accepting humanity's offer. Through it all, Ambassador Thompson stood quietly, waiting. Finally, Vale raised his hand for silence. "And if we refuse, if we choose to see this display of power as a threat," the ambassador's expression became serious, "then humanity will ensure that no species ever faces technological discrimination again. Our fleet is positioned to disable, not destroy, every major military installation in Concordat space simultaneously. We would remove your ability to threaten others while preserving civilian lives and infrastructure. The choice between peace and humiliation is yours." Reed understood then why humanity had arranged this demonstration, not just to show their power, but to show how they would use it, not for destruction or revenge, but for change. The council chamber fell silent as Vale stood. Billions of Concordat citizens watched through the broadcast as their leader faced this crucial moment. "Perhaps," Vale said slowly, "it is time for the Concordat to learn what humanity spent 50 years teaching itself. Pride and prejudice have blinded us to the possibility of true cooperation between species. If humanity can spend 50 years planning for peace instead of revenge, surely we can find the wisdom to accept their offer." The tension in the transformed corridors of the Covenant eased slightly. Around them, the hidden fleet's weapons powered down in perfect synchronization. "A wise choice," Thompson said. "Humanity stands ready to begin a new chapter in our shared history. Let today be remembered not as the day humanity revealed its strength, but as the day both our species chose to be better than our fears." Guardian's geometric patterns shifted into a complex dance of light. "Captain Reed, Dr. Morris, your teams will be remembered as the ones who first witnessed this change. You are free to return to your ship. I suggest reporting to your superiors that the old era of Concordat supremacy ended today, not with violence or victory, but with understanding." As Reed and his team prepared to leave, Morris turned back for one last question. "Will we see you again?" he asked Guardian. The eye's patterns sparkled with what might have been amusement. "Doctor, humanity has hidden ships like me near every major world in the galaxy. We have watched, learned, and prepared for 50 years. Now that we have revealed ourselves, do you really think we would simply disappear?" Looking at the transformed ship around them, the hidden fleet in space, and the historic meeting being broadcast across the galaxy, Reed realized that nothing would ever be the same. The primitive humans they had dismissed for so long had just reshaped the galaxy without firing a shot. And as his team returned to their shuttle, Reed couldn't help but wonder what other surprises humanity had been patiently waiting to reveal. After all, if they could hide an entire fleet in plain sight for 50 years, what else might they be capable of? The old warship they had found had turned out to be so much more, not just a relic of the past, but a key to the future. A future where humanity's greatest victory came not from the weapons they wielded, but from the wisdom to know when not to use them.